Welcome, friends. This episode, we're going to talk about kind of the aftermath of when you have a really hard week and how it's all kind of rooted in the grief and also forgiveness. So, thank you for joining me, friends. Please like, subscribe, share, follow this podcast so other people can find out about it and hear about it. So, if you listened to my podcast last week, I had a really hard week. There were a lot of things that came up. I had an event that kind of triggered me about my mom's death. Then I have a cousin's husband who was dying, who there was a lot of similarities in how he was like, and how my dad and him are both farmers. They both are pretty stubborn. There was a lot of mannerisms, a lot of the same character traits. Went to go visit him. The next day was my dad's birthday. And then my cousin's husband, he did end up passing away a few days after that. And so all of the grief was just hitting me and hitting me and hitting me. And then through all that, my husband and I were not in a good place. And there's a lot of grief for me that comes with that due to past financial infidelity, past betrayal, a lot of hurt there. And so when that is all happening, there is just this underlying heaviness or looming, or I was talking with my cousin the other day and I'm like, you can just like feel it in your bones, like how you know this stuff is coming up. You know it's just like in the back of your mind, like, okay, my cousin's husband, like he's gonna die, and the grief around that, and then my dad's birthday, and all of that is just like you feel it in your bones, especially like the similarities between how my cousin's husband died and my dad died. It was like they both had cancer. It both was in springtime that and during Lent that they were on hospice and that process. And so it's just a lot of similarities. And so through this last week, I was not in a good place. I was very upset with my husband still. And I was just like, sometimes that's just where you're at. And that is very, very true. But now, as I've had a few days, my husband and I worked it out again. Like, of course, with any relationship, it's an ongoing choice. And so we talked through things. We had a really, really good discussion. Um, and so I want to talk today about how we think that things should just be like one and done, right? Like so many times. So throughout all this, a lot of times when my husband and I are fighting, it brings up grief for me just because of the timeline, the circumstances, and how it happened. Was my dad died the end of July, my mom died the beginning of December, about mid to late January, so just a month after my mom died, um, I found out about the financial infidelity with my husband, right? So like when one of those griefs is triggered, they all come together. And so just recognizing that and saying that like helps me understand it and not feel like I'm crazy, right? Like just the natural, if people would look at that and be like, oh, yeah, of course, like there was a lot going on. Like having compassion for myself and understanding that when one of these things is triggered, like they're all most likely going to be triggered to some extent. Sometimes it's less for one, sometimes it's more for another, on and on. So just saying that helps me wrap my head around it. Now, the other thing that I have realized through this is so many times I think I said this once, like I told my husband how much I'm triggered by these things. He should just know that, right? Like I shouldn't have to say that again. I shouldn't have to tell him all the hurt and the pain and all the things. I shouldn't have to tell him that way. And then that is coupled with, and because I shouldn't, I expect him to do this. And so I'll give you an example. An example is how this kind of argument between us all started was I sometimes I get very triggered when he doesn't message me and say he made it where he was going. Sometimes I just am like, oh, he probably forgot. And so what happened was I was very triggered. It was late at night. I had not heard from him that he got where he was going. I was like, okay, he's gonna go play basketball. I'm gonna give him time. I don't want to, be the nagging wife. And so I waited and waited and waited and waited. And then when he did respond, it was very just like, oh yeah, I just forgot. It's fine. I'm here. Don't worry about it. I'll be home in a while. Well, a while ended up being midnight, which is a whole other expectation that I have is that your husband shouldn't be out till midnight unless he's going to tell you about it, right? Like, so that was another expectation I had. I had an expectation when he went to go play, it was going to be a few hours, not like 4 hours. And so just knowing that I have my own expectations, right? And that is paired with the expectation that when I say I am very triggered by this, I'm very upset by this, that he will then show up for me by being compassionate, by saying, I'm so sorry. Like, I know that that upsets you. I know that you're triggered by it. Like, giving me a hug, letting me like cry it out, right? Because like I feel very tense in my body when this happens, and I just like break down bawling because it's so like just all these vibrations in my body just like come out through my tears. And sometimes through the words I say, and like even if it's coherent, really, I'm just like, like so I have I expect him to message me. And when he doesn't, I expect him then to know how badly I will be triggered, how upsetting it is for me. And I expect him then to show up for me in a certain way in his actions. And most of that was broken up and did not happen. So then that created like this whole fight, this whole thing, right? And then it was paired with my dad's birthday, and then he didn't say anything, right? So I had even more expectations, expecting him to show up for me in a certain way. Now, all of that being said, I do think that there is power and I don't even know what the other word for it is, but just like there is a deep, deep um, understanding or compassion or healing that happens when somebody shows up for you in a way that you are expecting or asking them to, right? Like I know that because I've seen that happen also in our relationship when I communicate him and he goes above and beyond. There is great healing and soothing. It's almost like a balm on a wound, right? Like that is so healing to my heart. But most of the time that does not happen. And then we get in this gridlock, like, I'm not going to bend, he's not going to bend type situation. And so from that, then I I think I had the realization this past week just how much every single time this happens, how much I have to choose over and over again to forgive. And and I knew that, like I knew that in the thing, like, and I even told him that, right? Like every time it's not just a one and done, like I need to forgive you even more, like every time, or if I'm set by things and things are triggered, like it's like I'm going through that whole forgiveness process again. And each time, I wouldn't say each time, almost every time, it gets a little bit faster, it gets a little bit easier, but it is a process. It is a step-by-step thing. And so I also feel that with grief we, I think that because I forgave my dad once for not going and like getting his cancer check, like his cancer, like it was prostate cancer. Like prostate cancer, when caught early, like it is curable, curable. Like you remove the prostate, it is fine. Like it's done. But he didn't go, he probably had it for years or long enough where it not only was aggressive. Like it went in, it was already in his bones. Like it had progressed so far past. And so I have forgiven for that. But when it comes up, I have to walk through that process again. And even for my mom's death, like I'm not mad at my mom for missing her turn. I'm not mad at her about that, but I do get angry with God that like that's how it happened, that it happened so close after my dad died, that all of these things started crumbling around me, right? Like, so I have to walk through that process again. And I think that is where then we get upset with people when they're like, oh, they're in a better place. They would want you to be happy. Yes, I know that, but I need to walk through that all over again every time it comes up. And so that means that I not only need to have forgiveness for others around me, because a big thing is I get upset at my husband. I know some other people they turn inward and they get upset with themselves and think, well, I should be over this. And I do think that a little bit, but for me it is more, well, if my husband supported me and my husband showed up in this way, I would be over this faster, right? And the reality is that's not the reality. Like I'm maybe, maybe in a perfect world, if he showed up perfectly for me every single time, maybe I would be over it faster. But the reality is, I know that we don't live in a perfect world. I know that there are going to be triggers that come up that even if he showed up perfectly, I'm still going to have emotions. I'm still going to have those feelings that I need to deal with. Me, myself, and I need to deal with every single time. And so with that, that is what I want to leave you guys with a little bit of steps, tips, how to help with that. And so what I realized, especially over these past couple weeks of just like spinning in this turmoil, is realizing like first and foremost, write what your non-negotiables are, right? So if you're having a horrible red day, which that has felt like for the past 2 weeks with me, like what are the things that you're still going to show up and do anyway? For me, it is coaching, taking care of my clients. Like that is a non-negotiable for me. If I have a client call or if somebody messages me on Voxer, like I respond. I'm not going to put them off because I'm having a hard day. So like that for me is a non-negotiable. Another non-negotiable that I have realized is my podcast. It's talking to you guys. Like I think if I was like truly, truly like physically ill for multiple days, like maybe, but I've done it when I've been sick before too. So to me, it's just like a non-negotiable. I would say it's a non-negotiable is recording my podcast and posting that and getting that out. So those are two really big non-negotiables for me. Um, the other, I would say it's non-negotiable, but there's a little leeway. So one thing that for me that helps me is if I just don't go off the deep end with eating sweets because I I know that when I start, I get in this spiral that I can't stop, that then I guilt myself, I shame myself, I tell myself like, well, what's the point? Right? Like so that adds on to my grief. I wouldn't say it's a non-negotiable because there are some days where I'm just like, I'm so typically what happens is when my husband and I are fighting, like I don't have an appetite. I don't eat. And so I don't eat anything. And then the few things I do eat might be like things that I wouldn't normally choose. Like they're a little bit less healthy, a little bit fattier. But it's basically just because like I don't have the energy to do it. Like the other day I ate cinnamon toast crunch for lunch because I was just like, I don't have the energy to make anything for myself. I'm really, really hungry because it's like 3 in the afternoon and I haven't eaten all day. Like, this is what I'm going to eat. And that's something I normally wouldn't eat, but it's something in that moment that, like, I'm at least getting some food in my body and I'm eating something. So I do try to find a balance with that. I still am I negotiate with myself, right? Like try to figure out what works, what doesn't work with the food thing. And for me, it's just more because once I start, I know that it adds to my spiral and it's not good for me. And then it's hard for me to get out of that and start eating healthier again and feel good about myself and all the things. So those are a few things. And then the rest of it is really hit or miss. Like we had a lot of pizza. We've had a lot of sandwiches for meals. We've had a lot of like throw chicken nuggets in, right? Like we've had a lot of this is a quick, easy, hey, I can feed the kids. And then making sure that there's like these little salad kits, like individual salad kits that you can get at Walmart. I love those because then if I do want to eat something, like I'll just mix one of those together and I'll eat that. So I ate a lot of those. Um, Even at supper, like I would have salad, like, I made the kids spaghetti and then we had si salad with it and breadsticks. So I didn't eat the spaghetti. Because again, like carbs don't sit well with me now at this point in my life, unfortunately, even though I love them. And so I had bread. I chose that as my carbs. I had some garlic bread and then I had salad. So like showing up for myself in a way that like it's easier, but also knowing like these are my non-negotiables really has helped me. And then also knowing that in the grand scheme of things, like I'm rebuilding my website right now, right? I'm rebuilding it at catholicgriefcoach.com. Like I have the front page up and that's it. And because all of this fell apart. And knowing that in the grand scheme of things, like 3 weeks, yeah, it puts me behind. It puts me behind my business where I would like to be. But in the grand scheme of things, 3 weeks for me to just like take time for myself and like nap and cry, like it's okay. It's okay. And it's hard to do that kind of stuff when your mind is in a spiraling place. It's hard for me to be creative that way. Now, I did start painting my kitchen cupboards. Like I've been meaning to do that for about a year now. But to me, painting is very, very soothing. It's very soothing. I love it. I love painting walls. I like, to me, it's just like you can shut your brain off, or you can listen to a podcast while you're doing it, or just music. Like, so that's what I did instead. And I know in that moment that I am buffering, that I'm choosing not to do the website and not do marketing. And again, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And so I think that is the tip that I have for you guys is to find things that are your non-negotiable, but then find things that you're okay with doing and that you feel good about. And then again, my other realization was to kind of plan out more specifically for myself moving forward when my husband and I fight, what that looks like for me, what I'm willing to do and not do. Like in those few weeks, I was not willing to apologize. I was not. I put my foot down and I was not willing. And eventually I came around to it, right? I reached out again and another thing was I didn't pray. I hardly prayed at all. And I would love to say that's a non-negotiable for me, but I get in kind of this pouty pants mindset and I don't want to pray. And it was very interesting. My cousin suggested, like, well, have you done the surrender novena recently? And it's like, no, I haven't. It's been a while. So I played that. Sat and listened to it. And almost instantly, I was like, all right, I'm willing to go listen to my husband. I'm willing to sit down and talk this through him with him from not a place of I need to be heard, but from a place of I want to hear him. So again, when you let God in, He does work in wonderful ways. But sometimes I also understand the place where you don't want to let Him in right then. So just saying, that's where I was at. But all right. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that those tips for you guys help. Like, if you guys ever want to walk through anything, feel free to email me. I know my things are kind of changing right now, but I am working on getting a new website up. So that'll be catholicgriefcoach.com. But otherwise, you can um, email me at nursegriefcoaching@outlook.com and I will get back to you guys and walk you through whatever you need. So I am praying for you and I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless.